The voice cut through the room like a sharp command, arresting everyone's attention. "Take it off!" This wasn't a polite request. It was an order. The TV host's gaze was locked onto Karoline Leavitt, standing resolutely at the center of a packed room after her press conference. Young, unapologetically faithful, and unwavering in her convictions, she was the embodiment of modern leadership. The eyes of the crowd followed his words, landing on the simple yet gleaming necklace around her neck, a symbol of her faith, her belief in God, and, as many would later say, her unshakable courage. This wasn't just about a piece of jewelry. This was an attempt to humiliate her, to strip her of her principles inch by inch. But instead, it turned into an extraordinary moment of grace under fire. Who is Karoline Leavitt? A fighter in every sense of the word, bold, articulate, and deeply rooted in her beliefs. Karoline has always represented a new kind of leadership, young yet wise beyond her years, a voice for those who often feel silenced. On the day of this confrontation, she had just wrapped up a press conference addressing unity, freedom of speech, and the right to express oneself fully in a divided world. But not everyone shared her vision of freedom. The liberal TV host had a grudge. Their past exchanges had been heated, but this time, it wasn't about policy or political opinions. It was about something far more personal, her faith. "Take it off," he sneered again, his voice louder, daring her to refuse. The room fell into uneasy silence. Even those who agreed with him shifted uncomfortably in their seats, uncertain of what would happen next. But Karoline, she didn't flinch. With steady resolve, she tilted her head slightly and offered the faintest, most disarming smile. Then, in a calm, measured voice, she responded, "You want me to take it off? My faith? That's what this necklace represents. My faith, my relationship with God, my strength, and you're asking me to remove it because you disagree with it." Her words weren't defensive. They weren't spoken in anger or defiance, but in a thoughtful way that immediately reframed the conversation. Suddenly, this wasn't about a necklace. It was about something much deeper. But before we get to her response, which left every single person in the room speechless, let's take a moment to understand what brought Karoline to that pivotal moment. Karoline wasn't born into privilege or ease, nor did she fit the mold of a traditional political leader. She grew up in a modest family where faith wasn't just spoken about on Sundays. It was woven into the fabric of their daily lives. Her parents taught her to lean on God in times of uncertainty, to find strength in prayer, and to never apologize for her beliefs. Faith isn't about shouting louder than others, her mother often told her. It's about living with conviction even when no one else does. Karoline carried this principle with her through life, from high school debates to college lectures, where she was often the lone voice defending her worldview. She learned early that standing up for her beliefs could put a target on her back, but she also learned that unwavering faith earns respect, even from those who disagree. And standing firm is exactly what she did that day. After the TV host's antagonistic demand, Karoline took a deep breath, focusing not on the loaded words he had thrown at her, but on the teachings she had spent years cultivating, the idea that faith doesn't need to be shouted or argued to be powerful. Sometimes its quiet strength speaks for itself. "I'm sorry if my necklace makes you uncomfortable," she began, her voice steady. "But I have to ask, why does it offend you so much? Are you really angry about a piece of jewelry, or about what it stands for?" A shift in the air. Everyone listening felt it. "This necklace," she continued, holding it gently between her fingers, "is not just an accessory, it's a reminder of the strength I've received in my darkest hours when nothing else could bring me peace. A reminder of the values I strive to live by: love, kindness, and the unwavering belief that every single person around me has inherent worth, regardless of whether they share my faith or not." The room was silent. Even the TV host, who was clearly prepared to escalate the exchange, took a step back as her words began to sink in. But Karoline wasn't finished. "You see, I don't wear this necklace to make others believe what I believe. God gives every person the gift of free will. That includes the choice to follow him or not. I respect that deeply. But I wear this because it reminds me of something you can't see. It reminds me of how far I've come, the battles I've fought, and the strength I've gained, not by my own power, but through God's grace. She paused, letting the words settle in the stillness of the room. Cameras flashed, pens scribbled. The energy in the space was undeniable. You said I should take it off as if my faith is something I can remove as easily as you think. But my faith isn't a decoration. It's not something I put on in the morning and leave behind at night. It's who I am. It informs every choice I make, every policy I advocate for, every interaction I have. And I say this knowing full well that not everyone believes the same. That's okay. Now, her words weren't just directed at the host. They were for everyone in the room, everyone who had ever felt attacked, silenced, or shamed for their beliefs. I wear this not because I think my faith makes me better than anyone else, but because it reminds me to be better, better than I was yesterday, better to my friends and family, better to strangers who may need kindness more than I realize. That is what my faith symbolizes. And if that offends you, then maybe it's not my necklace that's the issue. Maybe it's something only you can reconcile. The liberal host opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. He looked at her, then at the cameras, clearly wrestling with the implications of her statement. He had walked into that moment ready to embarrass her, to frame her as a hypocrite. But instead, she had calmly, gracefully exposed his own bias, not with aggression, but with truth. Karoline closed with a statement many would later call the defining moment of her career. Unity isn't about making everyone the same. It's about respecting the differences that make us who we are. This necklace may symbolize my faith in God, but what unites us as people is so much bigger than any symbol. It's found in how we treat each other, how we listen, how we build bridges instead of burning them. If you disagree with me, I welcome the discussion, but I won't hide who I am, and I wouldn't ask you to either. The room erupted into applause. The TV host, though visibly shaken, managed a nod, perhaps realizing that he too had been given grace in that moment. A confrontation that began with hostility ended in unexpected reflection. Some called it a win for Karoline. Others called it a win for something greater: faith, resilience, and the courage to stand firm without tearing others down. And as for the necklace, it stayed right where it belonged, proudly worn by a woman who refused to shrink in the face of adversity.